Hi there, and welcome to another episode of 10-Minute Tips Over Tea with Using Technology Better. My name's Samantha, and today I'm going to be sharing my Google Drive tips for parents. So hopefully you caught Lara's presentation yesterday, which was all about Google Classroom tips for parents, because this very much follows on from the content in that. Okay, so let's get started. I'm just going to turn my camera off and share my screen. So just give me a minute while we do that transition. That over there for you. All right, here we go. Sharing screen. Brilliant. Okay, so hopefully you can see that. I'll just turn off the little graphic in the top right corner and the caption, just so that you can see exactly what I'm doing. Okay, so I started here on the Google homepage because often when we talk about like accessing Google Drive or something like that, people say to us, or parents will say to us, well, how do I even find it? So a really good place to start is you can always come to just google.com or .com.au or .co.nz or whatever the local address would be for your country. And as long as your child is logged into their Google account, which you can check by looking in the right-hand corner, there should be a little profile picture or an icon. You can click on that and see who's actually logged in. So as long as someone is logged in, then you have this little button here with the 9 dots. And I call that the waffle button because it kind of looks like a bit of a waffle to me that you might have for breakfast or something. So if you click on that, that's where you can then find all of the different G Suite tools, including Google Drive. So really quick and easy way to get to it. So assuming that you've done that, you will then end up in Google Drive, which will look something like this. So I'll just blow it up a little bit bigger for you. So I'm not going to give you a full tour today. Can't do that in 10 minutes, but I'm going to point out the key sections that you would need to know as a parent to support your child in using Google Drive for their learning. So over on the left here, you've got the My Drive, and that's where most of their stuff will be. So other really useful things on this side of the screen, the first one is recent. So if your child says to you, well, I was working on it yesterday, I can't find it, you can always come into recent because that will have a list of all the documents they were recently working on, right? And you can look at it there. Now, Start is also great, but we're going to come back and look at that in just a minute. And always good to know where the bin is in case something is deleted. You can jump in there and see it. Okay, so let's jump back to My Drive now. In your My Drive, or your child's My Drive, they should have, if their school is using Google Classroom and their teachers are using Google Classroom, they should actually have a folder called Classroom. Now, this is created automatically when they're added to a Google Classroom for the first time. And within that folder, you will find subfolders for all of the different subjects that they're taking, all the different classes that they're in. So there might be some from previous years, etc., but you'll also have the ones for this year. So within all of those, I'll just quickly find one. If you were to jump in, you will then see more folders, and each of those subfolders represent an assignment or a question or a task that's been sent out by the teacher that generally has documents attached to it. So if I wanted to find the documents involved in this particular assignment, I could jump in and there would be the work. Now, you might be looking at my screen and going, oh my goodness, how come my child could see all of the other children's work? Please do not worry. This is actually a view of me as a teacher. Your child would only see their work in there. So I don't want to alarm you. It's a really good opportunity to actually explain the great thing about Google Classroom is that your child does only see their work. So if your child was Brainy Smurf, they wouldn't see all the others. They would just see Brainy Smurf here, okay? So they'll just find their work in there. And that's automatically shared back with the teacher, so the teacher can be supporting them on the work as well. So that will hopefully help you navigate things like Classroom in terms of finding the work. Now, with Classroom particularly, it's always good to access it through Google Classroom, but if for some reason they're in Drive and they want to grab it, you can do it through there. Now, other things that are really good to know is how to actually use something called stars to kind of like bookmark files that are useful. So let's just say this particular one down here is something that your child is working on and they want to be able to easily find it, and you want to be able to easily find it to support them. And what you can do is you can click on the file once, and then you can either right click on it or if you're on like a Mac or a Chromebook, it would be a 2-finger push. And you can click Add to Start. And what that's going to do is we'll add a little star to the file and it will show it over here in the starred section. So this is kind of like a shortcut list for all the different files you quickly want to access. And you can star folders and you can star files. So for example, you could actually star some of those folders that are in the classroom view, classroom folder, so that they're easily accessible here in starred. Now, another really quick way to do stars, if I just jump back, is you can just right click, oh, not even right click, we've already done that one. You can click on a file and on the keyboard, you can push the S key. So it's S for star. And if you do that, it will add a star. If you want to take a star off, you can push S again. To take a star off, you can also right click and say remove from starred. So if you are using stars with your child, I just check it every now and then to make sure you need to clean it up, like remove things that are not required anymore. Okay, so a couple of really other important things here is actually how to use search. So up the top, you've got the search box. Don't recommend kind of just like popping a word in there and pushing enter, because it's kind of like a hope I'm feeling lucky search. You get a whole lot of stuff. A really good way to do a search is to actually click on this little arrow on the right, and then you can be a little bit more specific. So if you know your child's been working on a document, and you know, you don't know what it was called because they just created it and now they can't find it, or you know that they were working on it and you know that they created it, so they would be the owner. If you weren't sure if they created it, you could leave that as anyone, but you could, for example, say owned by me. And then you don't know what it's called, as I said, but you know it was, they were writing a story about the dog. So you're thinking, okay, cool, it's going to have the word dog in it. So you can come down to include the words and type dog. So that's going to look for all documents, and then with the word dog. If you weren't even sure if it was a document, you could leave this more generic, but it's a good sort of start to sort of have an idea of what that file might be. And if you know they said they were working on it last week, then you could actually say something in the last 7 days, for example. Now, I'm going to take that out because I don't know if I've got any about dogs in the last 7 days, but I'll click search, and then theoretically we should have any search results, there you go, that have the word dog in them. So check out that search, really good way to find stuff. Now, other things that are important here is how you actually create stuff. So first of all, let's talk about creating folders. Now, what's really good is I already showed you the classroom folder, so that's great if your school's using Google Classroom, but what about A, if they're not, or B, you want different folders to organize your child's work. So you can create folders by coming up to the new button and then clicking on folder. So if we do that, give it a name. So I'm just going to say maths work. Okay, click create, and it's going to create it. Pop it right here. Now at this point, if you were looking at your own child's Google Drive and it was looking a bit different to mine, you just might want to be aware of this button up the top right corner, because that actually flips between like this icon kind of grid view where everything's like that, or the list view that I was looking at. So if you were wondering why mine's a bit different, that would be why. All right, so let's find this one called Maths Work. There it is. So other things you can do with this folder, you can right click it, or as I said, 2-finger push depending on your device, and you can change the color. So you might want to color code some of the folders with your child. You can also rename it from here as well. Now, other little quick thing before we finish off. If your child is required to create a new file, you know, the teacher might be saying create a new Google Doc or a new Google slide or something like that. Often they give them that through Classroom, but sometimes they might need to create their own, or you might want them to do some work. Up to the new button is where you would create that, and you'll see Google Docs, Google Sheets, Google Slides, and on more, you will see other things as well. So I'm just quickly going to go ahead and create a new Google Doc because I want to tell you 2 really important things about working with Google Docs, and these apply to Google Slides, Google Sheets, Google Drawings, etc. First important thing is you always need to make sure your child's given it a name. So this would just be something I would talk through and see if they already know how to do and remind them to do it. So up the top where it says untitled document, you click in there and that's where you give it a name. Now this is really important because it doesn't like force you to do it, so you do need to do it. Otherwise you can't necessarily find things later. So that's the first thing. The second thing to know is Google Docs and Sheets and Slides and all of that kind of thing save automatically. So you'll see it actually says all changes saved in Drive. So don't worry about finding a save button, checking that they saved. All the work saves automatically, which is fantastic. All right, so there's my Google Drive tips for parents. So I'm going to flip over here. stop the screen share. I'll pop my camera back on just for a moment so I can say goodbye to you all. So I hope that was helpful. I hope it helps your child utilize Google Drive and you help them do that as well. So thanks so much for watching, and do tune in tomorrow for another episode of 10 Tips Over Tea with Using Technology Better. See you later.